this query, right? We had this query that was select customer name, sum balance as total balance from depositor, natural join, account, group by customer name or whatever. And then we said, you know what, this is just a, I'm going to rename it as a view and I'm going to use it as a view. So when I say I'm going to use it as a view, this becomes accessible to my other clients as well. So the client can actually say select star from customer deposits, and internally this entire query gets executed. Does this part make sense? Yes, no.
I have a question about the query in general.
Mm-hmm,
Um, so you have the natural join, but then you also
mm-hmm,
have group by.
mm-hmm.
Is that group by augmenting the natural join?
No, no, no. So assume that all customer IDs or customer names are primary keys, right? So our customer, not primary keys, but all customer names are unique. So essentially, when we say that depositor natural join account, we are basically performing our natural join operations on all of those common attributes, and then we are grouping by all the customer names. So a customer can have multiple accounts where account IDs are your primary keys. So a customer can have
Oh
multiple
yeah, it
accounts
collapses it. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
collapses, exactly, it
I got
collapses
you.
it, and then we sum up the entire balance.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions, guys? Okay. So when we say select star from customer deposits, essentially it is going to generate that internal table that we performed. Now, what happens? So we know that our customer deposit has this schema, right? Customer name and sum balance, right? So what happens if I say insert into customer deposits values, maybe John, 800. So when I say this, what am I saying? That insert into customer deposits a new user called John and say that his entire total balance is 800. So given this query, and let's say that you are a database, right? Let's say that this is a database, and so let's say that let's say that customer deposits is at oh sorry, my bad, I was asking something else. Let's say that you are a database and we have this view, and on top of this view a person is actually trying to insert into this view this new value. So should this be allowed, and if so, how would you do that? Do you have any ideas as to how you would implement that into a view? Because any changes we make to this view would have to actually make changes to depositor and account as well, right? Because view is not a table on its own. A view is just a view or a query result from a table that is shortened to a nickname. So given this, I can perform a select star on that. I can perform a where clause on that. But can I perform an insert operation? And if so, how? What would I do about that? Any ideas? Long. Yes, it is similar to a rename operation, but it is a rename operation on basically an entire query, which we can do on a rename operation as well. So yes, it is sort of similar. But remember that a rename operation was only, I would say that with a caveat though, because remember a rename operation only existed within that single expression. A view is there until you delete it. So a view will always be there as a separate entity. So in a sense, it is like a rename operation that has the capabilities of a separate table, but not actually a table.
So does it take up the same amount of memory based
No,
on like,
it does not take any memory at all. It is just
okay,
saving the query that is required to
okay.
generate that.
So it's more of a macro.
It's more of a macro. That would be the best word to explain
Okay.
it. Yes. So can I, so it's a macro where I can perform operations on top of it as well, like the select star and things like that. Can I insert values into my view? Should I be able to insert values into my view? Yes, no, I want some votes. No answer is wrong. I have one yes. In this particular scenario, we had customer name and some balance. So when I say I'm going to insert something into my view, I'm saying insert John into my depositor and account relations and insert the total sum of 800 into the account relation, right? Is there a way for me to create an account and maybe add multiple accounts for John and then set their sum to be 800? It becomes a bit weird, right? And this is just for this particular scenario, but you can see that there are cases where insert into customer deposits or some other view should not be allowed. What if my entire view was comprised of aggregate operations? Then how do I insert something there that actually would affect the resultant tables that it comes from as well? Okay, so in general, the simplest solution would be to not allow insert or update operations to my views at all. And that is usually what MySQL does as well. Postgres, so MySQL does allow it with certain conditions. We'll talk about the conditions in a second. Postgres allows you to actually insert something into a view, and it does all sorts of computations and stuff like that to actually insert some entries to the original tables as well. So it becomes really powerful. But in general, the standard way is a view is only updatable because if and only if the from clause uses only one relation. So if I'm going to insert something, there are cases where what happens if I'm joining multiple tables together. In that scenario, uh, where does my entry go and what should be the entries if something is not there in that particular row? So in general, a view is called updatable if a from clause only uses one relation. The select clause only uses attributes in that relation and does not perform any computations on those relations. So for example, I can't say a plus 5 or any aggregate operations such as sum, max, min. I can't say all of those things. I can only say that a view is updatable if and only if the select clause uses only displays those attributes, and the table should allow null values in some attributes where then at that point if I view up certain set of columns. So for example, let's say that I have this a single table that has 100 attributes and I create a view that gets me the first two attributes, right? Now I can insert two attribute values as a new statement, like insert into a view these two values, and those two values will be inserted as the first two attributes. But that also means that the remaining 98 attributes should have the ability to have null values. They can't have any constraints on that because I would have to replace those, add null values for those empty values, right? Because I'm inserting into a view that only allows two values. And again, no grouping or aggregation operations. Yes, we'll just wait up after class and then we can discuss that. Okay. Only if these cases are followed can we actually perform an insert, update, or delete operation, right? Now, so given this particular view, and this view is like an example of this, get all the accounts at the downtown branch. So that is select account number, branch name, balance from account where branch name is downtown, right? So we create a view with that name called downtown accounts. And now let's check if this particular view is updatable or not. So from uses only one relation from one table. Well, yes, it just uses that one particular relation from account. Select includes only attributes, but no aggregate operations. That is also true. Select blah, blah, blah only uses attribute values, no aggregate operations, nothing is computed. So yes, it is technically updatable, right? Okay. So now if we perform select star from downtown accounts, we end up with this particular list. It has only one, maybe just one value for now, one tuple. So A101 has an account in downtown with a balance of 500. Okay, so now we said that this particular view was updatable. Now what happens if I insert into downtown accounts the values A600 minus with the balance of 550, where I say that the account ID is A600, the balance is 550, and my branch name is minus. Now what do I do? Because I said that this view specifically takes in branches that are in the downtown account. And now I'm inserting something from the Mianas account, right? So how do we deal with that? So if I run this particular expression in SQL on MySQL, it would happily execute this and say that rows have been updated, right? But if I run the query again, that is select star from downtown accounts, remember that that was like, as you said, a macro, right? So essentially it only again shows the one single account because this was not in the downtown branch. So what is going on here? Where is my tuple? I just inserted a tuple and it's not here. So what is going on, right? So there is an issue with that particular scenario, and MySQL actually allows you to add another option right now, and it's getting really weird at this point, but essentially we also have something called the with check option. The with check option is essentially, in simplest terms, it will only insert something into a view if after inserting or updating it, it would actually be visible after I execute that view, if that makes sense. So I will only update the view if and only if that update will actually take effect in that view. So I can create my view as create view downtown accounts, blah, 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 with check option. And now, if I run this particular command again, insert into downtown accounts A600 minus 550, it would now give you an error because adding this will not update the original table. Does that make sense? Any questions about this? Okay. Okay, so up to
I have a
now,
question.
yes.
Would the would updating the view like cascade down into like the parts of the view? Because you kind of like combine things and move things around a little bit. Does it like cascade down into those individual tables, or does it
Yes.
stay just on the view?
Remember, the view is nothing, right? The view is just a query shortcut. So it cannot actually stay in the view.
Gotcha.
So whenever you insert something, it is actually going to cascade down to your other tables.
Thanks.
Any other question? Very good question. Any other question? Angelina, does that make sense as to why views can technically be read-only, but they don't have to be? They can still be updatable if need be.
Hello, can you
Hello.
hear me? Okay,
Yes.
so so technically you insert the value into that table, but you cannot see it in that view because that view only shows downtown accounts.
No. Again, depends upon the database implementation. MySQL, I think, will not even insert this particular tuple into your table because the view will not even allow it to update that. But Postgres will. So depends upon the implementation, but essentially, it's a toss up between yes and no. But essentially, whenever you're trying to insert something that does